Hare Krishna, beautiful people. Hello, and welcome to the Soul Shraya podcast. We are your hosts, Bhakti Jake and Balaram Shaktidas. We are devoted to bring you ancient wisdom for the modern day. Join us as we read the Krishna book by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and let us share with you the wonderful shelter or ashraya of our dear Lord Krishna. Please join us in this sublime process of transforming our consciousness by hearing and discussing spiritual concepts. Balaram, how are you today?
Excellent. Thank you, Prabhu. How are you?
Good, good, very good. Yeah. So I guess we should get right into the book. I'm eager to get into the book today.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. Let me get right in here. Let me bring up the prayers, which I do love. Yeah, so yes, so just so you know, Zoom is I don't know what you call it. They redid everything, so everything's kind of like in a new place. So sorry, it's not like it's I have to like dig to find where everything is now. So anyway, I got them up now though.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
All right, I will bring up the text. And we are right in the very back of chapter 5 at this point, where
Right at the close of this conversation.
Yes. So yes. So where do you want to hop in right at the purport, or do you want to back up to Vasudeva?
Well, we read the purport paragraph. Oh. So yeah, we did read that.
Okay.
So basically, Vasudeva is meeting with Nanda, so Krishna's birth father, meeting with Krishna's foster father, and the latter doesn't know that Vasudeva that actually Krishna appeared to Vasudeva and he brought Krishna to Gokula and swapped him out with Subhadra in order to protect Krishna, which was Krishna's instruction to him. And he wasn't able to come out and say that due to the nature of the regime in the town Mathura that they're in, where King Kamsa, right, the demonic king, is ruling. So he has to talk sort of encoded or indirectly. So he's indirectly expressing his concern about Krishna. And so the last paragraph was explaining about that and why Vasudeva is inquiring about, the welfare of Vrindavan. It's sort of double entendre sort of things going on. So yeah, he's just going to say a few more things and then Nanda will reply.
Okay. Okay. So you want me to read right here from Vasudeva?
Yeah, go ahead and just read this first paragraph.
Okay. So Vasudeva continued to say that the maintenance of religious principles, economic development, and the satisfactory execution of meeting the demands of the senses depend on cooperation among relatives, nations, and all humanity. Therefore, it is everyone's duty to see that his fellow citizens and the cows are not put into difficulty. One should see to the peace and comfort of his fellow man and the animals. The development of religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification can then be achieved without difficulty. Vasudeva expressed his sorrow due to not being able to give protection to his own sons born of Devaki. He was thinking that religious principles, economic development, and the satisfaction of his senses were therefore all lost.
Okay, so this is a really nice topic here. So for those who are familiar, this is referring to what are known as the Purusarthas, which Purusha means person and artha means goal. So there are four goals of human life, right? And that is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And those run a sort of sequence, right? That one builds from the other. And so what you have is this gradual, how would you say, progressive, wow, Jake, your video is really...
Yeah, sorry.
wonky. What's going on? Okay.
It's a new layout.
It's like what do they call those shows? Those electronic EDR.
I'm just gonna stop touching buttons.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So, all right. So there are these progressive values, progressive goals of life, culminating in salvation or liberation, and that all of them depend on Dharma, right? So Dharma is the foundation. Dharma means, Prabhupada is translating it as religious principles here. So being a righteous person, right? Doing the right thing, living a life of duty and purpose, right? That is grounded in roots of a culture, we could say. So, what, and then when that's not there, all the rest are spoiled, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about that, but just to kind of tie in with what's going on here is that Vasudeva is feeling sorrow, that he's not able to meet, those standards to live on that level where Dharma is being protected, and therefore all of the goals of life are spoiled. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
So then we learn from the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita what occurs, or like how a society declines, right? And that's basically Arjuna's, one of his main arguments, or perhaps the main thrust of his argument, of why not to fight, right? He's feeling conflicted, whether he should fight or should not fight. And he's not able to reconcile, because on the one hand, he has to destroy these atrocious beings who have usurped power. And on the other hand, if he does that, he feels he'll be in the same position that Vasudeva is in. He won't be able to uphold, the fabric of society. So, yeah, if you want to comment at all, I mean, there's so much that could be said, but how the current state of the world is destroying these things, because we're not founded on that base, that foundation of religiosity, and just how even in our lifetime we have seen so much decline in that, and people are pursuing the satisfaction of the senses, without, and economic development for the sake of without being founded on Dharma. And we're seeing just how that, doesn't pan out.
Yeah, this is a good illustration of that. I think in our case, in our century, in our lifetime, when people can't meet a certain spiritual goal, or they fall short of a certain spiritual goal, I think they have the tendency to just throw in the towel and say, well, forget about it then. I'll never be good enough. I can't attain it. I'll just keep on pleasing myself, and just continue where I'm at here, and which is usually like, sense gratification in one way or the other. I'll just go to work and just, party on the weekend, and that'll be my life. So I think it's important to just point out that even if you do fall short, which we're all going to fall short, you should never throw in the towel. You should always keep up the fight. If not for anybody else, just for your own sanity, because you're never going to get the satisfaction that you're looking for. We as humans are never, it's never enough. It's never enough. Yeah, I'll leave it right there. I'll probably comment more on that later, but yeah, that's how I'm receiving this anyway. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I was listening last night to Gabor Mate. Familiar with him? Like Dr. Mate. he's anyway, I forget where he's. Oh, he's Hungarian. He's a Hungarian doctor and psychiatrist, sort of. Anyway, a brilliant author, and I haven't heard much from him, but somehow or other, kind of came into my purview last couple days, and really brilliant understanding of like addiction and trauma.
Mm.
And so the main point that I was getting from that was, and it's like this is revolutionary because I mean, it's pretty much common knowledge now. You know, the Western health system, you know, medical science is treating the symptoms and has no understanding of how to treat the root cause, right? It's like, oh,
Uh,
you're feeling depression,
That's a
here's some
fact.
antidepressants.
Yeah.
Is it going to help? Oh, we don't know. We actually don't know the, you know, the full scope of the long-term effects, but
Yeah.
this is all we know how to do is treat the symptom. You know, there's this Cartesian duality, you know, that's playing into their whole philosophy. So there's just no real foundational understanding. Whereas, you know, what's being presented here is like, unless you are grounded in something whole, you're always going to feel some void within you, and you'll try anything and everything to fill that. So, so he has a really wonderful approach. It's like, okay, instead of condemning your addiction, this is like this really struck me. It's just like, okay, you know, you did heroin or whatever, even something, you know, as destructive as that, instead of being like, oh, like, why did you do that? But actually asking, why did you do that? Like, what was it doing for you? Not just, well, this is wrong, it's bad, you know, I have to. No, what was it doing for you? Oh, well, it made me feel, you know, euphoria, happiness, like it, you know, forgetting my loneliness and so forth. So he goes, okay, well, then the problem isn't the addiction. The problem is the feeling that, you know, you're lacking euphoria, you know, good feelings. You're lacking a sense of connection and so forth. So we should look at those things, you know, and then of course, you know, it's related to childhood trauma and so forth. Um, that every child needs, like it's like really deep. It's like, man, our society's really screwed up. Every child needs to feel like, because they're so sensitive, they need to feel from their parents like total sense of trust and like lack of stress. Because any amount of stress, even if the parent isn't being abusive, any amount of stress they pick up on and they internalize as, oh, it's not, I'm not able to feel safe, right? I'm not able to feel safe. I'm not able to this, that, and the other, you know, express my creativity, all these things,
Yeah.
right? Ultimately, you know, so Dharma, artha, kama, moksha, like this sequence of pursuing the goals of life gets cut at the root, actually, because this foundation of Dharma, which we could say is synonymous with the sense of wholeness and the sense of groundedness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That like, if you're in your Dharma, there's no fear or stress of like, oh, like, am I able to, or, you know, can I, is this okay? Right? Like, there's a cosmic okayness,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? So at the root, you know, that's what's going on, and therefore we feel the emptiness and yeah, I struggle a lot with this, still,
Mm.
even, having such amazing, practices of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
It's like there's still a lot of like the human side of things that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about Dharma, artha, kama, moksha, like that's the aspect we're talking about. There's then the fifth goal of life, which is the crown jewel of human attainment, which is bhakti, right? Which is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
This is the chanting of Hare Krishna,
Yeah.
connecting with God. In one sense, it's transcendental, right? In that sense, it doesn't have anything to do with the material, earthly goals, but they're totally interrelated, right? Um, you see what I'm getting at?
Oh yeah. 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 The once you're in the like I've been I thankfully am right now, at least I feel like I am in the spiritual groove, or the spiritual pocket, if you will, that pocket of Dharma, and just living that out. And I mean, it's a day-to-day process, and it's it's really, it's the way I see it is just relinquishing, just letting go of like sticky situations in your mind, like I hear what you're saying, what you were saying about as a child, you have, like, if you incur trauma, which I would imagine most people do, um, it gives you that unsettled sort of a feeling, and then you, like, as an adult, it's hard to function in the right way to live out your dharma, because you feel like that instability even into your adult life. um, that is so interesting, because that is something that is definitely not a roadblock, but definitely something that we should all be dealing with, you know? And these
Mm.
horrible addictions in society, the way that we medicine in the West, medicine in the West is like, my goodness gracious. It's just, it seems like it's just based on the system of, well, it'll cure or kill you. We don't know. Like, whoa, whoa,
Well,
dude.
interesting distinction between cure and heal that Gator Mate gave,
Mm,
because isn't this good? Western medicine absolutely knows how to cure things, but just because you've been cured doesn't mean you've been healed. and just and you can be healed without having been cured
mm,
as well. I mean, so many of our leaders in our movement have developed cancer. They weren't cured, you know, but were they healed? Yeah, the absolute success of their spiritual life. So we don't deny its curative abilities, but as far as healing, they just have no idea what's
yeah.
going
Throw a band-aid on it,
on.
charge them $1 million and give them a band-aid,
Yeah,
I mean, that's pretty much it.
it was interesting. Even just the words that you used, um, instability. What was it like? What was the other one? Ungrounded or unsettled.
Yeah.
Those both have to do with our ground, our foundation, right? So that's what I'm seeing here, is like not having that earth-based, ground in which to grow in the world. Now, the distinction that we need to have, or the discernment, is that fifth goal of life. Again, it's like, the hand is just perfect for this. You've got the 4 horizontal and then 1 vertical.
Yeah.
Right. So you can go on any
Huh.
one of these, this way, but how are you going this way it's the independent axis, right? To use a mathematical analogy. So it's the mindset, right? So when Arjuna was, to bring it back to his conundrum, he was like, if I do these things, I lose either way. But Krishna says, don't worry about that. If you do this thing, if you fight for me, whatever you do, it's spiritual. It's a spiritual activity now. You're not doing these things for the results that you get in this plane. Whatever you do, you're getting results in this plane. So ultimately, this is what we're going for, is this spiritual growth. And that's how we're meant to have an understanding of these horizontal goals, of having a solid foundation, developing ourselves economically, right? Hare Krishnas, you might think, because you've seen us with the bed sheets on the side of the road chanting, that we're against economic development and we say just get rid of your job. That's not the case.
Yeah, no, not
If
at
you're
all.
going to have, whether or not you have a job, these things should be an expression of your devotional consciousnness, right? Then what that means is you're not seeking a goal, or you're not seeking a fruit with these goals. You're pursuing them because it's the way that God designed this world for the flourishment of life, which is, it can be material on its own. It can be purely material and godless on its own, but the very same activity that can be totally godless can be saturated with God consciousness. So what is Vasudeva lamenting here? What I'm seeing in this, he's a pure devotee, like he's with God. He's not concerned with this vertical axis of his, right? But he's expressing his lamentation about these material goals being compromised. And my take on that is because, no, are you right?
Yeah. Is that okay?
So I don't know what happened.
Is it doing weird stuff again?
It's doing very weird stuff.
Is it really?
I don't know what.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see if I can. My picture looks weird.
Yeah, it's double for one.
Really?
It's very strange, and the screen share is like tiny. And I mean, I'm on my phone, so I don't know.
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
Okay, there we go.
It's the update, man.
What on earth?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Here, let me try something real quick, and I'll see if I can sort it out.
It was fine. Just
There, that's where it was before. Hopefully this
is good.
Okay. All right, there we go. Okay. A little better. A little better now. Now we're on the actual share.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So
all right. Yeah, we'll hop back into text then.
There you go.
Okay.
So
Well,
you can see us and the text too, right?
I can see you in the text.
Oh, well, I can see you in the text.
Yeah.
Okay. All you can do is just laugh. All right. So, okay.
So he's expressing his lamentation. My take on that is because our Purusarthas, the 4 goals of human life, when we live them out and when we flourish in them, we are injecting our bhakti into the world. Isn't this interesting? It's like, because everything that we do is surcharged. So when Arjuna was fighting on the battlefield, his arrows were spiritually charged. Everyone that got touched by his arrows, that got pierced by his arrows, was liberated. Their soul is liberated. So like that's pretty amazing. In the same way, when someone is in devotional consciousness, it's the same thing. Arjuna was in devotional consciousness, pure devotion. Then all of their dharma, their artha, their kama, and then ultimately their moksha is charged with those things. I guess the first three being actually relevant. So Vasudeva is he's thinking that religious principles, economic development, and the satisfaction of his senses were therefore all lost.
Yes.
So it, like he didn't have a means to inject his devotional consciousness into the world and thereby benefit others. So it's like he's not thinking, oh, I'm not able to satisfy my senses. Like, right? And that's a materialist concept of like, oh, I can't gratify my senses. You know, that sucks for me. That's obvious. Well, it's maybe not so obvious, but that's definitely not Vasudeva's mentality because he's a pure devotee. So he's not thinking about these things for his own sake. And that point I think is very important to me. Is it can only be, as I'm seeing it, that for the rest of the world. And it's like, I don't know, what do you think about that? It's like we celebrate, like in our own movement, our own Hare Krishna movement, like we celebrate these like second generation devotees and who are born in a very pure environment, right? And they take when they take to Krishna consciousness, it's like amazing because they're going to be very materially successful, right? They've been dealt a good hand, generally speaking. So we celebrate that. Why? It's like, I thought we were only supposed to celebrate devotional consciousness. Why are we putting so much attention? It's like, because they have the ability to influence so many people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and if they maintain their Krishna consciousness, like, God, it's going to change the face of the earth,
Yeah.
So, whereas like people like you and me, like, well, we didn't have the best dharmic foundation, we got into drugs and alcohol and all that, and we kind of, we have a lot to lament.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the sentiment Vasudeva. He's expressing it actually also for our behalf, so we can understand the nature of sorrow, which, yeah, it's important to grieve. At the same time, Nanda is about to say, don't be aggrieved. So why don't we read?
Okay.
Unless you have do you have anything to say on that?
No, that's good right there. That is good right there. Yeah, I can, there's this little one. We are so close to the end.
Just finish it up.
Okay. All right. Okay, so on hearing this, Nanda Maharaj replied, "My dear Vasudev, I know that you are very much aggrieved because the cruel King Kamsa has killed all your sons born of Devaki. Although the last child was a daughter, Kamsa could not kill her, and she was entered into the celestial planets. My dear friend, do not be aggrieved. We are all being controlled by our past unseen activities. Everyone is subjected to his past deeds, and one who is not conversant with the philosophy of karma and its reaction is a man in knowledge. Such a person will not be aggrieved at any incident, happy or miserable." Vasudeva then replied, "My dear Nanda, if you have already paid the government taxes, then return soon to your place, because I think that there may be some disturbances in Goloka.
Gokula.
Gokula. Sorry. I gotta kind of just shift it around.
Goloka is the spiritual realm, and Gokula is the material reflection of Goloka. It is a place, it is like the region of Vrindavan, where Nanda and family live.
Okay, so yes. Okay, so after the friendly conversation between Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, Vasudeva returned to his home. Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men who had come to Mathura to pay their taxes also returned home. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport of the 5th chapter of Krishna, the meeting of Nanda and Vasudeva.
Okay.
Jai.
So what Nanda is saying is, there's no reason to grieve because everything is just acting out due to karma.
Yeah.
So, the grief comes when there's some reversal or there's some, destruction of our, right situation in the world, right? Just kind of speaking in general terms. You fill in the blanks for your own experience, right? But that actually none of these things merit grief if we can kind of zoom out and understand the bigger picture that everything is happening just like clockwork, right?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have a tendency to really, really get down on myself because I feel like, if I hadn't been such an idiot for 20 years, I could have been doing this already. And how far down the road would I have been now by this time? But I don't know what it is. I don't know. I guess it's like, is it really your own thing? Or is it just the fact that we're just satiated in this culture of like death and greed and sin, and you just don't know any better because nobody knows any better? That's the thing that gets me. Is just like how like I could have been doing this, like but I don't know. So what he's saying is, hey, don't worry about it. You're doing it now. Everything happened. It had to happen that way. Just pay your taxes, dude. See you later. Okay, see you later.
I know, we're a very like curt reply by Vasudeva.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's saying here everyone is subjected to his past deeds, right? So yeah, it's very complex subject matter, because there is this sort of like shared karma. In a sense, it's like, the mistakes that I have made, the bad choices that I have made, was it really me, or was it just like the current of my environment, that just moved me? And so it's like, yeah, that's basically what it is. So, and you just have to understand that is playing out exactly how it needs to play out, right? So the transcendentalist is training his mind to think that way, that whatever is what must be, right? And there's no reason for me to get unnecessarily or overly, aggrieved about it, because it just is what it is. So what is there for me to do is put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, that's not saying to just be an impersonalist and forget about the world and forget about your human emotions, right? Because, you know, again, we're meant to be in the world. We're meant to interact with the world and bring ourselves into it and do our best, you know,
Yeah.
to maintain
Yeah.
our situation so forth, and that our emotions are important to feel. Actually, God is able to speak to us through them when we allow ourselves to feel that. It's the problem, really, actually, and what is perpetuating our karma in one sense is our unwillingness to feel, you know, in a holistic way, in a healthy way, in a way that's processing, you know, and then able to let go, our unwillingness to do that. And instead, we just keep on seeking, you know, artha and kama without that dharma, without that solid foundation that, okay, I know I'm a child of God, you know, let me move forward in my life,
Yeah.
you know, and not be like swayed
Yeah.
on the right path, on the path of righteousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and you could say that now that we're in it, you know, now that we're in that pocket, you know, in that dharma, in that on the stable ground, now we're on the stable ground. How quickly things happen now. How rapidly are we making spiritual progress now? Like super rapidly. You know, I've been doing this for 2 years now. Like, and I am like a totally different person. I am like not the same at all. How rapidly.
I think
Well, that's
you're
good.
mixing up these 2 points of bhakti and dharma. Right? The dharma is not synonymous with bhakti. In one sense, it is. It's the highest dharma. But dharma meaning you've got your life like in line, like materially. Like you're grounded in a situation and a mentality that's not going to sabotage your, you know, steps in life. Means like you don't have addictions, actually, which it's like, yeah, if you start practicing bhakti yoga, that should help heal those things.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like addressing them in a separate way. Uh, that's my take.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I
So
hear you.
so what do you think about that? It's like, I mean, we can see how much we're progressing. I mean, practicing bhakti is spiritual advancement, you know, but what to speak of if you have like a solid job, you know, that doesn't stress you out. Imagine
Yeah. I know.
possibility. How much spiritual advancement would you make? Would you advance more rapidly? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you would.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're like unless you're already pure, like Vasudeva. You know, it's not a matter. There's nothing checking his Krishna consciousness because he's already absorbed in Krishna prema. You know, we're not absorbing Krishna prema. So when we have material setbacks, they set back our spiritual progress. You know, that's called unsteady bhajana kriya. There again, the steadiness. You know, it's a different kind of steadiness. It means, you know, that spiritually you're unsteady. But it's still, there's a relationship there of material steadiness and spiritual steadiness. That if we don't have our things in order, right, we're not like on a very solid path of dharma, then our spiritual practice is going to waver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy because there was a point, and other people can point out times in their life, on their life timeline, where, you know, I was very close at this point in my life. All I had to do was kind of like let go and just let the things come to me. Okay. And my spiritual life would have been pretty good. Okay. But I made some bad choices, and now I'm, you know,
Mm.
I'm recovering from this, from all these bad choices that I made. Um,
Okay, so there's the Dharma.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
in this culture, I think that when you are raised in a certain religion
Mm.
where they tell you that if you only worship that one God, you have to worship this one God this one way. And if you don't, you're going to an eternal punishment that's going to be eternal. I think that makes people nervous,
Yeah. I mean,
you
that's
know,
not
to say
a
the
little
least,
unnerving.
right? That makes people a little nervous. You know, they're like, oh, you know, I have to, then I have to go to church because I don't want to go to hell for eternity. You know, I need to believe in this God because I'm afraid of burning eternally, because this God that I'm worshiping could could do that to me. It's very, and so that's the culture that we grew up in, you know, as Westerners. And it's like, I know I'm getting off a little bit, just slightly,
Please.
but but it's that mentality. I mean, you talk about getting unstable. That'll
Mm.
do it, right? So it makes much more sense to believe, to worship a God that is like Krishna. That is Krishna, actually, because of the things that you just said. When Arjuna was on the battlefield, Krishna told him, you know, everything you do is going to be all right. You know, your arrows are going to hit these dudes and they're going to be liberated. You know, it's like all a part of the plan. That whole thing makes much more sense. This makes some much more sense. And yes, the bhakti and then dharma, yeah, yes, these things make far more sense. That's why we're here, you know. But I don't
Okay.
know, just
That's
that
get
whole
so that's
thing.
getting at no, this is a nice point. You know, Richard Rohr talks a lot about this. Um, about like like a moral system, religion as a moral system, right? So that's approaching Dharma into like without bhakti in a sense that religion is simply about doing the right thing, you know, because this is what we've established is right and everything else is wrong. And so there's only one way. It's working in absolutes, right? All or nothing mentality. And that's the mentality, that's the same mentality as the addict's mind. It's the same thing. You know, I have to do this or there, you know, nothing. Right. Um, I don't know if you could explain the all or nothing better. Um,
Well,
but you, isn't it? Isn't that like that's so that's the same thing. So you're in the same boat of this unstable dharma, you know, because you've made it so focused on the rules and you know these expectations, um, and anything else is, you know, is totally sinful. When you know the real religion, which is you know transcendentalism, the focus on devotion that is totally independent of the rules and regulations and so forth that you're setting up, right? That is what's going to actually give your heart a stable foundation because it's not it's so practical. It's you know these working with absolutes is totally impractical. Saying if it's not exactly like this, then to hell with it. It's like, well, that's not, you're not dealing with the real world. The real world has a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of subtleties. And so if your religion can't accommodate subtleties, you're going to be extraordinarily frustrated. And that's what we're seeing in all the major religions, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're seeing an immense frustration because they're like, we don't know how to grapple with, like non-binary anything.
I'm telling you, it, for an example, if you knew of a man who had a bunch of kids and he asked the kids to worship him in a certain way and they didn't do that, and he took them all out and he just like lit them on fire but made sure that they died very, very slowly, that man would be a psychopath, right? You know, so these things breed abuse. This breeds.
Yeah, nice point.
You know, I mean, yeah,
the addict creates the addict.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Yeah,
that's why I'm a bhakti yoga now. Bhakti yogi.
Yeah.
I'm a bhakta.
I am
That's why I'm a
bhakti
bhakta. Because I don't believe in addiction. I believe in service. I want to serve. I want to dedicate my life to God. Yeah. This is the way to do it. This is the clear path to do it.
Yeah.
And it's
gotta throw in a Yoda-ism in there that only the Sith deal in absolutes. Right. There it is. From the mouth of the master himself.
I wonder where they got that name, Sith. Isn't that like, I mean, who comes up with this stuff?
So good.
Like when you hear that, you're just like, oh, that's not good. That's dark. Good, you know? Sith. It's like, oh, geez, okay, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I vaguely remember being a small child, introduced to the original trilogy, and having that sense, like that's literal sin, like that's literal evil right there. Like there was no distinction. Like this is a story, it's fiction. As far as my child brain was concerned, no, that's real. That's dark, Yeah, there's like a palpable sense. Anyway, well, we are, I guess, are out of time.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
we're right there.
I think, but yeah. So Vasudeva and Nanda kind of settle their worries and say, okay, well, we're on the path of bhakti. We love Krishna, and things might be a little wonky materially, but we're just gonna, do the needful, pay our taxes, right? Being a bhakti yogi doesn't mean you can skip out on your taxes. Do what you have to do in the world and leave the rest to God.
Yeah. I guess that would sum it up for today. I guess that would be where we're at now. Probably next episode we will start into chapter 6. So we're doing pretty good. We're making pretty rapid. It's taking us oh man, well that's all right. We're doing pretty good. So I do need to get going. I want to thank you, Balaram, for being here and for your insights, because without your insights, this show would be really, really lame, because it would just be being a total goofball for an hour every single show. So thank you very much. And also I'd like to thank our audience And please, if you like our show, hit the like button, subscribe. All of these things really help us get the message out. And as I said in the introduction, we are just trying to take ancient wisdom and make it relevant for you, beautiful people in the world today. That is the goal of this show. We want you to know health and peace and a steady mind. And we believe that this is a great way to attain those things. So thank you very much for watching our podcast. Let's end our podcast the way we always do by chanting the Maha Mantra 3 times.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you again, beautiful audience, and we will check you out next time. Please take it all in stride and do what you got to do. We love you. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.